everyone. And thank you, Alex. Thank you, Simon, for joining this conversation about Arca Continental and their data-driven manufacturing transformation and how technology, people, and insights can help organizations to enhance operations. But why don't we watch this clip before we start this conversation?
Arca Continental is the second largest Coca-Cola bottling company in Latin America and one of the most important of the world. We operate in the US, Mexico, Ecuador, Peru, and Argentina. As you can imagine, having 45 manufacturing sites around these 5 different countries involve having also different maturities in terms of technology and data management. There's a lot of people to be impacted in terms of the implementation of digital transformation use cases. So understanding the impact we have on humans that are still part of this loop, it's pretty important. So we try to have one excellence center in terms of digital transformation in at least one manufacturing site of each country where we operate. That allows more people to be involved and have like a local, geographically located example, so you can just go and experience what we mean with digital transformation.
Thank you. Excellent. Well, Alex, my first question is for you. Do you remember when we first approached Arca Continental, what were some of the challenges that they were facing at that time?
Yes, absolutely. So it is actually, we had a meeting with Arca Continental when their journey started here in Hanover. It was a couple of years ago. And they were actually facing their challenges, which are very similar to what a lot of manufacturers see. It's the traditional productivity improvements were leveling out. So they had to actually use new technology to actually get the slope up again. Another topic was in some areas they were concerned about that they were not generating the yield which they wanted to have, so higher scrap rates than it was actually desirable. And then a very interesting one is very specifically. So when they, of course, are filling their products like Coke, etc., and they track very closely now the cost per case and understand what is actually driving these numbers. And that was also a major challenge for them, having this under control to match this with the rather tight margins which they sometimes get there so that they can actually do this as a profitable business.
Interesting. So when those challenges were clear, do you remember how did they make that decision? Where did they start instead of trying to tackle everything at once?
Yes, so very clearly they started with to get in first basic transparency. They actually know where do they have to go to make the changes to actually get also then the reward for they did. So what they did is the main use case for them at the beginning was OEE for getting this transparency. Where is actually the equipment which they have utilized to the best and where is there room for improvement? And in these cases, what are actually the main loss drivers? And then on top of that, they already knew at that point that they need to manage their energy cost more closely. And so they introduced, building on our energy manager solution, energy management system based on ISO 50001. That's the starting point. And as they learn then, where are the loss drivers? For example, which failure modes cause downtimes? What are the main reasons for scrapping parts of their production? That is then when they were then able to go to the next stage and then adopt topics like predictive quality or predictive maintenance.
Great. So now, Simon, my question is for you. What role did predictive maintenance play at Arca Continental to achieve their goals for digital transformation?
Yeah, and predictive maintenance is obviously a big buzzword, and it's also probably one of the ones that's the hardest to adopt and make successful with the customer. And we always know there's certain key points we look at for a customer to see is it going to be successful. And the key one for that is a cultural maturity, support from the shop floor to the top floor. And Arca Continental very much had this in spades. right? And we very much look for, are they already on a digital transformation journey? Because if they're not, and their first entry point is predictive maintenance, that's quite a tough ask, right? Because if they are not even doing OEE transparency yet, how are you going to measure what predictive maintenance is achieving, right? So once they had initial success with transparency use case, then we started deploying Sensei Predictive Maintenance, which is a machine and vendor agnostic, highly scalable predictive maintenance solution, which we deployed with them. And because they had that great sort of strategic framework to deploy this and a lot of buy-in across the organization, you can actually get success really quickly. And within 6 days of going live, they saved 13 hours of downtime on a filler labeler machine, right? And you can imagine over 13 hours, that's a lot of Coca-Cola that's not being produced, right? So it's not always that quick, but with Arca Continental, because they had that right mindset and strategy across the organization, it's been really successful to help them along their digital journey.
Excellent. So this question is for both of you. So how does Insights Hub and predictive maintenance work together to achieve operational transparency and predictive insights?
Yeah, I can start, Alex. Predictive maintenance never exists in isolation, right? It's always part of a broader ecosystem of other products, other maintenance workflows, enterprise workflows, and also often a customer will start with a certain use case, maybe transparency or quality, and then move to like predictive maintenance. And for us, Insights Hub provides that backbone. That's where we store all our data, all our context, and we try to align across that to give a single experience to the user. So a bit like Microsoft Office, right? You can start with Word, that works well, then you move to PowerPoint, and you want the experience to be similar, and you want the data to be kind of interoperable and things like that. So that's what I see Insights Hub as being.
I think that's already a very good wrap up. And what comes on top of it is, of course, if you moved into more use cases, you still have the same data foundation, and that's an important piece for consistency. Another topic is also, if you do this basically on the same platform setup, it's the integrations which you still have to build with CMMS on the one side, MES on another side, kind of. You do this once, and then it's basically working similarly for all the use cases, taking a lot of extra effort out as you're expanding with adopting new use cases and addressing additional production challenges.
Yeah.
Well, now, Alex, you kind of have been with Arca since the very beginning in this journey. Do you remember what were some of the early wins that the team made them feel like there was something like there was like right, they were on the right path?
Exactly. So when they started, as mentioned, the focus was a lot on transparency, but that doesn't mean that it's just information and then nothing tangible comes out. I mean, one of the elements was that the cost per case could be managed more effectively, and they could reduce the cost position there, which of course directly turns into additional profitability. They were able to increase OEE by 3 percentage points. And if you compare this basically to the large setup, which we saw in the early video, this is actually a significant additional output, which you can then sell on the market. And then the last step is also that with more knowledge about what is actually causing disruptions, they could also increase the stability of the processes. And then, of course, now with the adoption of the predictive use cases, we are now actually adding now towards this, and and it's actually a really good journey, and we hope that Arca can actually keep this pace.
Excellent. Well, Simon, one of my last questions about people and the partnership between Arca and Siemens. How is the collaboration, and how has it been factor of the success?
Yeah. And as I hinted earlier, adopting predictive maintenance requires a real cultural shift. And we've been doing this now for over 10 years, and we have stories that are positive and negative. And normal maintenance workflow is you're reacting to machines failing. and you're extremely busy doing that. And at times you probably get quite a rush with being able to fix the machine quite quickly while the whole production line is down. So you're asking them to adopt a totally different workflow, stop rushing around, and use a system that can inform you how to schedule your maintenance activities, and to minimize that crazy period of reacting to things. And doing that is tough. So you need the team to fully support that. You need from shop floor to top floor to support that. And certainly for the first year, we work intensively with Arca Continental, with our customer success team, to actually almost be like the customer. We're almost using a system like they use it to help them adopt it, and when they get success, to make sure it's promoted and it spurs on further expansion and success. And the Arca Continental team has been very receptive to that. You know, we work very closely in collaboration between our sort of customer success team and their engineering team.
Thank you. So looking ahead, what are the plans in the roadmap for Insights Hub and Sensei Predictive Maintenance?
Maybe I start quickly. So for us, it's actually there are three major building blocks. Number one is, of course, we get a lot of feedback from customers, and that goes directly into product. That is always the most important thing, getting the customer feedback in. Number two is contextualization. If we look around over here, there's a lot of different elements going beyond analytics, which make up operational software. And analytics only gives the full value if you actually get this contextual information, no matter if it's manufacturing, execution, quality management, and you actually augment the data with this to actually get the greater insights. And then the last one, it's of course, if you look to the Innovation Hub, what we are doing there already, it's expanding on the AI capabilities which we have with the production co-pilot with agentic AI.
Yeah, and you know, the key thing is to keep being best in class on this. And I look at technology now. You know, you had the sort of the first generation stuff, which was more condition monitoring, at least from a predictive maintenance perspective. Second generation is sort of the first AI wave, and now you've got the Gen AI wave, and it's going to be completely transformative over the next few years in what we can achieve, and be even more prescriptive with what we give to our customers.
Thank you. Well, this has been a very interesting conversation. Thank you for sharing your perspective on Arca Continental. And if you want to learn more about Insights Hub or Sensei Predictive Maintenance, you can come and meet with our team, the experts, and they would be very happy to share with you, do a demonstration. We are in the station 122 and 139.